Jacinta, again, one of the things we are most excited about, fingers crossed, you getting to the Senate, is taking on Lidia Thorpe. So Lidia Thorpe, Greens Senator, all the identitarian, the person who wants to bring down the system, but could I have another latte in the Chairman's Lounge? The one who didn't know that the Attorney General of the Northern Territory is an Indigenous woman, is now blowing up because apparently she wasn't able to speak forever in the inquiry into the mining company that blew up a sacred site in Western Australia. She is, of course, calling it the Boys Club. So if race doesn't work, then she falls into gender. I can't wait for you to call her out. A little sample, please, future Senator.
Oh, look, you know, she's the gift that keeps on giving, isn't she? I mean, she thinks that I don't know if she thinks she's turned up to the right workplace, because I think she needs to turn up to the circus every day, because that's where she sounds like she belongs. You know, the fact that every other, so we've got the coalition, we've got Labor, who are all actually saying, you know what, no, you're nonsense, you're making this up, and we're actually sick to death of not being able to get any work done or do anything because you keep wanting to jump up and down, throw your tantrum, throw yourself on the ground and have a whinge, and actually not contribute any kind of meaningful debate. I mean, at some point, you would hope that she would click. She would realise that what she's doing is utterly ineffective. She's wasting taxpayers' money, because all she's wanting to do is be this activist, and it's not the place to be doing it. You know, there's nothing intelligent about her constantly on the attack and coming across as though she's not necessarily making much sense either. She's doing herself a complete disservice, and the people she's, you know, there to represent.
The thing about her ego, though, that is just so out of check, is that she thinks she's the only person in the room, right? Like, we know the ghost used to think he was the smartest person in the room. She thinks she's the only person in the room. She's not one of many representatives. She's one above every, right? Which is why she tweets this about Warren Inch, who was running the inquiry, right? Being the only black woman on the inquiry, my time is limited due to the Boys Club. Hashtag not okay. Hashtag are you serious? Of course, she's had plenty of goes around, and I mentioned a couple of them before, but here she is banging on about white tears.
The pain that I saw in Eddie's eyes and the tears that I saw from Eddie, we actually refer to them as white tears. I immediately thought of Twiggy Forrest and how, you know, there's all these do-gooders out there that think that they're doing the right thing, but they can still be racist. No, it doesn't work like that. That's where systemic racism needs to continually be called out.
This Sheila is a fake, all right? She's a wind-up toy for the Twitter will love, that they literally will put the halo effect around when they had her photo in The Age. Again, one of her other greatest hits, remember, all right? This is her ripping into the Attorney General of the Northern Territory, who's not a white man.
I do hope the Attorney General, given he probably didn't read the Royal Commission recommendations, hopefully he listens to these experts. Hopefully they're white, and, you know, white is right in this place.
She's not.
No, and you know, she forgets that she's got, you know, I mean, she's got the same colour skin as me. Obviously, there's a bit of white fella, you know, involved in her heritage there. I mean, is she trying to say that there's something wrong with her as well? Because apparently there's something wrong with being white, which is utterly racist. And yeah, I just don't know. I just don't know whether there's enough going on up here for her to understand what she is actually doing, the damage she is actually doing. But the damage she's doing is actually to herself. To herself. You know, she absolutely has lost any credibility whatsoever she thought she might have ever had walking into Parliament, into Canberra in the first place. And that hole she's digging is getting bigger and bigger and bigger. I mean, I know Labor MPs here in the Territory, especially Indigenous ones, who are like, you know, if the Greens ever thought they wanted to form a coalition with Labor, well, they might want to think about turfing Lidia at the next lot of, you know, their pre-selection battles.
Oh, correct. Correct, but also it's this thing, Joe, where to me there's this sort of what I think is the racism, is the paternalistic attitude towards Lidia Thorpe, that you can't call her out as a normal politician. Somehow she's some sort of magical human being who, if you criticise her, it's because of her race, it's because of her gender. No, I'm calling her out because she's a flog.
Well, Lidia Thorpe is in fact just a parody of herself, and indeed is almost a parody of the typical inner city left-wing activist. The fact that she's black, white, whatever, is neither here nor there. The complaint about her in these committee hearings is that she constantly goes on these completely irrelevant rants that have nothing to do with the subject at hand or the witness they're meant to be questioning, just so she can then post it to social media and get all her little likes from outside the committee room, which tells you absolutely everything you need to know about the typical urban left-wing activist. But I will, in Lydia's defence, Jacinta, say that she's not just doing damage to herself, she's in fact doing an enormous amount of damage to all Indigenous people, because of course she has labelled anyone who tries to do any good, literally any do-gooders who try to address things like Indigenous disadvantages, being automatically inherently racist. And by singling out Twiggy Forrest, who has done a huge amount for Aboriginal employment, his Australian Employment Covenant has generated thousands upon thousands upon thousands of jobs for Aboriginal people, for Indigenous businesses. His Generation One initiative to close the gap within a single generation, while incredibly ambitious, has also just smashed through so many ceilings and barriers that countless government programs have fallen short in front of. So the idea that you would just write off his entire, multi-billion-dollar efforts to raise up Indigenous people and to give them the same opportunities that we take for granted, and just dismiss that as racist, is enormously damaging. It is damaging to the people she claims she represents. So, also, it's such an insight. She's an embarrassment and she's a disgrace.
She only wants problem, right? If you have problem, then you get to keep pointing at problem, which means you don't have to be part of the solution.
Well, if you're overprivileged and you don't have real problems, then of course that's what you want, because you want something to be angry and upset about, and you never want the problem to be solved, because you always want to be in the position of protest, the position of indignation, the position of outrage. If you actually are there, you're struggling to get a job, you just want the goddamn job. You don't want anything to protest against, you want the goddamn job.
But this is the thing, Jacinta, sorry, you go.
It's all emotionally driven nonsense, and the emotional intelligence that's on display is incredibly lacking. And I mean, I bet you bottom dollar that Twiggy Forrest knows who the Attorney General of the Northern Territory is, and has probably had a lot to do with her and to work with her, as he has done with a lot of Indigenous Australians from remote communities, from grassroots areas on the ground, which clearly Lidia has had very little to do with in terms of the most marginalised Indigenous Australians, particularly throughout Western Australia and the Northern Territory. I mean, emotional intelligence, zero.